Hey everybody, hope you're all doing okay. I just figured I'd do a nice, lazy, comfy Sunday night stream and just see if anybody wanted to come on, maybe ask me a few questions, anything like that. So we'll just see how it goes. I don't have anything particular planned, so I'm just going to be playing Disgaea 2. If people have something else they'd like some video they want me to react to or something like that, please let me know, and I'll switch over to that. But for the moment, let's see here. Let me just change this over on Twitch. Yeah, so if people want how do I get a GF? Okay, so here's Uncle Argent's advice for getting a GF. You walk up to the girl and you smack her and you tell her to make you a sandwich. And I guarantee you that'll work. No, that's not what you do. I'm obviously joking. That's an obvious joke. This is live, right? Yes, this is live. We're doing this live. Let me just see. Let me just pull up my controller, and I'm just gonna play some Disgaea. I can't really play Fire Emblem on stream, unfortunately, because I don't have any way to hook my Wii up to my, my Switch up to my, let's see here. I don't really have a way to hook my Switch up to my, capture software. I guess I'm kind of a boomer. Let me see if I can get this sound to work properly. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the Disgaea series. I just finished Disgaea 1, which I thought was really good. I'm going through 2, which I really like. And then I'm also going through 5, just because it's a series I missed. What are your thoughts on Prostitution? I agree with Thomas Aquinas on Prostitution. Thomas Aquinas felt that prostitution should be legal because men, being the horny bastards that they are always going to seek out women to screw no matter what. So if this is going to be the case, then we might as well have them have fewer women be ruined by them. So in other words, prostitutes exist to take the lust of men that would otherwise go to QTs. I think that's what Thomas Aquinas meant, and I can't really disagree with him on that. I think that makes sense to me. So yeah, I don't think there's really a way to get around prostitution being legal, to be honest. I think it's just kind of something that is inevitably going to be the case. Why is this not working? Do you like Asian women? I don't know, what do you mean by do you like Asian women? I need like a more substantive. What the hell happened here? Boomer Argent. The gray... oh, my frame's not working. Oh, well, whatever. It's not necessary. Are you a Sam Hyde fan? I've never really watched too much Sam Hyde, to be honest. Like, as in willing to let them have your children? No. No, I don't condone that kind of thing. I do find a lot of Asian women very attractive, but no, I wouldn't have children with one. Thanks for talking about answering my kind of off-topic question. No, it's not off-topic. You can ask whatever you want. I do videos on politics, too. It's just sometimes I go through periods of not doing videos on politics just because I get really tired of doing it. Just because stuff is often so depressing. By the way, that's Rosalind. She's best girl in this game. I really like the characters in the Disgaea games. They're very wholesome. Let's see here. Have you heard of Q? If so, what are your thoughts? Which Q? Are we talking like Evangelion Q? Are we talking Star Trek Q? I'm not sure. Will I get married? I might. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Depends if I meet a nice girl or not. Quanon. No, I have no idea what Quanon is. Arjun, I've been dating this girl for a year now, and she just revealed to me that she's black. She lied to me, bleaching her skin and wearing prosthetic hair. How do we navigate this duplicitous reality? I don't know. That sounds like a meme to me. I honestly don't really believe that. That's real. Sorry, Ray. How do I rank the Star Wars movies? I'd probably say Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back. Next one's hard. I guess Return of the Jedi, A New Hope, Attack of the Clones, and Phantom Menace. And that's how I'd rate all the Star Wars movies. There's no other Star Wars movies that could be rated within that. What's your current opinion of Davis Arini? Davis Arini is a very, very sad man. It's funny. So to just maybe do a bit of background as to what happened with that whole thing. Initially, I was kind of on Arini's side with the whole thing. I thought Beckloff had kind of been a douche to him, and I kind of thought Beckloff was being like excessively belligerent, I guess you could say, and that sort of thing. So I'd say I was initially kind of on Arini's side. But then Arini got involved with the Free Folk, and he joined like a shitty pagan cult. And that really bothered me because he was hanging out with people like a guy who was a self-described priest of hell. And yeah, so there's a guy who was a priest of hell. There was a guy, there was the Fat Meatloaf. They were just fucking weirdos. And he hung out with them. And then I made fun of them. I didn't even make fun of Arini. I made fun of the Free Folk. And he got super triggered, and he called me like the kind of person who blames the person who gets raped for being a victim. Like, he called me a victim blamer or something like that. And I think what it was for me is he did like a stream where he talked about like how porn was good and stuff like that. He's like, oh, porn's a good thing. People who are against porn are incels. People who criticize me are virgins and incels. And he was doing all this, and he was talking about like all the women he was banging, all the while talking about how he was like a pious traditional Catholic who is calling people fucking incels because they aren't having like random promiscuous sex, because that makes perfect sense. So there was that, and now he's just a really sad man. No, he didn't really stab me in the back. It wasn't that big a deal. He just said like one nasty thing to me. But I just... The thing that I think really bothered me about the whole thing was just how disingenuous it was. Like, how he was... Like, him and the Free Folk were saying, like, Beckloff and I and all the other people who... like, criticized him were, like, incels and virgins and that kind of thing. And I kind of feel if you're going to say that you're a traditional Catholic, you shouldn't be calling people, like, a virgin as an insult. Because isn't that, like, if like, so, like, he's a traditional Catholic who's criticizing people for not engaging in fornication. So, like, you can figure that one out. Do you think Aaron Clary should be giving career advice? Will he eventually fail like Davis? I mean, isn't Aaron Clary a professional NEET? Like, when was the last time he had like a real job? Also, like, Arini and the Free Folk, like, called all the people who criticized them, like, losers who didn't go anywhere in life, who hadn't achieved anything. And I mean, if you look at them, Furburger works as a Walmart greeter. Arini doesn't have a job. I think he's a professional NEET. Who the hell knows what Hadron Collider did? Like, so... they're, like, attacking all these people for being... it's just very hypocritical. Also, Arini said that people could hire him to be a life coach, which is, like, the most cringy thing I've ever heard. If anything, like, I'm not gonna... I'm just saying this purely for, like, satirical purposes, but... if anything, I'd make a better life coach since I've actually been able to hold down a serious adult job for like a lengthy amount of time. And I get that the job market's hard. I just don't like when people are just like... It is a massive, like, ad hominem to just say, oh, the people who don't like me are, like, virgins and incels and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just something that irritates me. Let's see here. I think people pay Clary for entertainment instead of real advice. My issue with Aaron Clary is that he's a nihilist. A nihilist? Not nihilist. Nihilist. But he's, like, very open about that. Like, to me, I've disliked him ever since he talked about his 45 retirement plan. Like, when he's no longer physically capable of having pleasure, he'll shoot himself in the head. So, like, I don't know. I just find that very distasteful and kind of childish. I also think it's kind of like a douchey thing to say, just in kind of... given all the people who suffer from actual depression. Also, I don't think he's correct. I don't think his whole, like, everybody has to go into STEM thing is real. Because, I don't know, in a lot of cases, people have trouble getting... there's only so many STEM jobs, and if everybody goes into STEM... and everybody learns to code, then those things won't be in demand anymore. How it works in Canada is if there's a shortage of something like that, the government just brings immigrants in, who have gotten cheap educations in the third world, and just fills those positions. They don't really have any interest in training Canadians to do that kind of thing. So... that being said, I think his advice to try to find something that has a future or something that's marketable is a good one. I mean, there is still stuff in the trades. You can work in, like, the oil industry. My understanding is logistics is a very big industry. I don't know. Like, people always ask me, like, what they should go into as a career. And my advice, generally speaking, is take a look at what careers, what the growth prospects are for various fields, and try to find something that, even if you're not, like, super excited about, that you can live with, that you can see yourself doing for a prolonged time period. And also keep in mind, when you're looking for a career, you're not going to be in one position forever. So, like, I call it doing your time. And most people have to do their time at some point in their careers. So, regardless of what you're in, you're probably going to do, like, 3 to 5 years at the bottom of the barrel. You're going to be doing kind of maybe boring work, maybe kind of repetitive work. You're going to kind of be the office gopher. But if you can make it through the first 3 to 5 years, things get way, way, way better. Like, for example, I'm going through trying to find a new job, and I've been at my current place for 3.5 years now. And because I have that experience, instead of getting callbacks like a month later, I find I am getting callbacks like a week after I applied, and people are very interested, more so than they were before. So it does get better if you can kind of get through it. If you can get basic experience, doors will just open up for you. So that's part of it. I'd also say don't go to college just to go to college. That's a big issue. I love how they refer to people's levels in this game. Like how meta it is. I love this guy. Sorry if I'm just reading dialogue. Yeah, so you shouldn't go to university just for the sake of going to university. Let's see here. Archon and Plague says, currently I work as a statistical programmer for nearly 3 years. Yeah, that's a good job. I'm not sure. You probably make decent money at that.
Have you found the princess?
No, not.
We uncovered an integral.
I'm just reading this dialogue. This was a great game to pick.
That is the most.
A mere demon lord trying to.
We understand.
As you wish.
What? Okay. Alright, that's random. Going to a top-tier university compared to a lesser one in the league tables. Okay, that's an interesting question. So here is what I would say regarding that whole thing. If you're in Canada, it doesn't really matter. Just because of the way the Canadian university system is structured, there aren't really bad universities. Like, some universities are more prestigious than others, but there's not really any university we would consider to be bad, or that a company wouldn't hire you because you're from. So my advice would be, just take a look at what the state schools are like. Like, I have a friend who was going to a private university in Massachusetts, and it was like absurdly expensive, and I'm like, why don't you just go to the state school? I'm sure the state school in Massachusetts is perfectly fine. And it was actually very highly rated, so he did wind up switching to that, so it's much better for him in terms of price. So I guess the closest thing we have to a Harvard in Canada would be Queen University, I think is the biggest one. Ronan Zenial 2018 says, I'm currently a PhD student with a stipend, but no working experience at all. Am I doomed after I finish the program? It depends what your PhD is in. Because there are a lot of jobs you can get with a PhD. Like, if you just look around, there's a fair number of them, particularly if it's in science or psychology or medicine. There's a lot of job opportunities for that sort of thing. I see them posted all the time. So, hopefully it's in a pretty good field. Let's see here. Tunic, JoJo. PhD economics. Yeah, you should be fine then. There's lots of stuff that's PhD in economics. Maybe just start looking now, though. Take a look around, see what kind of stuff is you can realistically go after. Another thing you might want to do, and this is just for a general piece of advice, a lot of people now go to vocational school after they finish after they finish university. So you can go, like, you can finish university and then you can go to vocational school to do something else for a while and get kind of some more practical experience. Maybe do something that includes an internship. So that's kind of a piece of advice, maybe. I don't know if there's something like, I'm not sure how vocational school works in the United States compared to Canada. But in Canada, we have universities and we have colleges. And colleges tend to be vocational training. So there's a lot of specific programs now that you need a undergrad degree to go into. So you need to have like a bachelor's in something, and then you can go and do a graduate diploma in something. So like, for example, like if you start in computer programming, there might be something in big data or AI or something like that. And these are often developed with the assistance of industry. So there'll be industry people who are working with them to develop these things. And it's something to look out for. Because I remember one of the programs I did had a internship as part of it. And that was amazing. I got it with the government, so I made like an absurd amount of money because civil servants are very well paid in Canada. Let's see here. But those are all things you should be looking into. Let's see, subpoena. The subpoena was issued for your existence. With regards to the comment on the poetic moment in history, the fact that the last Western Roman emperor was named Romulus Augustulus was a pretty good poetic moment. The founder of the Kingdom of Rome and the founder of the Empire of Rome. I don't know if there was necessarily a founder of the Republic. I can't think of one if there was one in particular. What do you think about MMORPGs? That's a good question. What do I think about MMORPGs? Why can't I go into any of these? Why can't I go into any of these? I don't get it. Oh, of a subpoena. Okay, go to the item world and select subpoena. Oh, there it is. Okay. It depends on the MMORPG. Part of my issue is just a lot of stuff like WoW is just, they never really bothered to upgrade it. Which is kind of one of the issues. So they never really upgraded the engine very much, and that's, I guess, kind of my issue with a lot of MMORPGs. They've just made very little effort to innovate over the years. Wow. What game of this? This is Disgaea 2. Yeah, Trudeau dumped a bunch of Canada's trash in the Philippines, and it led to a major diplomatic incident. Wow, that was very lucky. Oh, I love how insane this game is. A lot of it makes absolutely no sense. I know, Disgaea might be like one of the most aggressively Japanese things ever. Let's see here. Anon says Battle Angel Alita deserves more attention. I would agree. I really liked Alita. It was a really good movie. You guys know my friend Serp. My friend Serp said it was probably the most Japanese a movie could be and still have Western audiences not like completely reject it, which I think is probably a good way of putting it, because I don't think you really could get much more Japanese than that and still have like people from this side of the ocean being able to do that. Will I survive the Filipinos' conquest of Canada? That's an interesting question. If they do, it'll be because they're being used as shock troopers by China Economy Strong. Oh, that didn't do anything. There's the other one. I guess the biggest issue with Filipinos is they're just kind of annoying. That maybe might be the best way of describing them. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Is the China economy strong versus Japan economy strong thing as strong as it used to be during World War II? I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think it's definitely still a thing, but I don't know. I think the Chinese have kind of come to terms with the fact that they have bigger gaijin to fly. Oh, well, bigger foreign devils to fry. So I don't think it's nearly as big a thing as it used to be. Does anyone in the Philippines still speak Spanish? Or is it all just English and Tagalog? There's rumors Hollywood wants Quentin Tarantino to direct a Star Trek movie. You know what? That actually might be interesting. I'd almost be down for that. Just because we've had so many crappy, like, Star Trek movies and Star Trek Discovery, I'm willing to just see what the complete freak show that, Quentin Tarantino would produce would be. Because that could at least be, like, really interesting, if nothing else. So, I'm on board for that. I'd kind of like to see Quentin Tarantino do a James Bond movie, actually. That is definitely something I would actually like to see. By the way, just my thoughts on that. That actually really irritated. It kind of irritated me, but I'm kind of happy about it. With regards to the whole James Bond thing. Because as we know, the next James Bond is going to be like some black woman. So I'm kind of happy they went with that instead of Idris Elba. Just because it's a lot more in your face. Because Idris Elba is like a decent actor. And so like, if there was an Idris Elba James Bond movie, it would probably be an okay movie. Like, despite the fact that it's clearly just there to, like, make a political point. But the film might have actually been, like, okay. But there's, like, no chance it's going to be any good now. Now it's just going to be, like, a complete of utter, like, disaster. So I don't know. To me, it's just a very like it's like one of the most in your face things. This is our world now I've ever seen. What are my thoughts on paleoconservatism? I don't have any particular thoughts. I like paleoconservatism. It's much better than mainstream conservatism. I've always been a big Pat Buchanan fan, so yeah, I like paleoconservatism. I don't really have too much to say about it beyond that. I don't know if you want to count like someone like Ramsey Paul as kind of being paleoconservatism. That might make sense. But I don't know. What are my favorite spy films? So, I think I've talked about it in the past, but I'm a really, really big Bond fan. You see, what used to happen is my grandfather and my father, we were all big James Bond fans. So whenever my grandfather used to babysit for my parents, we would go over to like Blockbuster and get out a James Bond movie and get like a bunch of popcorn and chips and Pepsi and shit. And we just like binge watch James Bond movies. And that's like one of my fondest memories of my childhood. So, what are my favorite Bond movies? I'd say like probably my favorite one is You Only Live Twice, because it's so insane. Like you've got like hollowed out volcanoes, you got Donald Pleasance as I was about to say Dr. Evil as Blofeld. I think he was the best Blofeld personally. You have ninjas, you have like just all kinds of insane stuff. So I like that one a lot. Someone says License to Kill. License to Kill was good. I think my favorite Dalton ones, I really like The Living Daylights. Partially just because I really like the Living Daylights song. Tomorrow Never Dies I really liked. I'd say like Tomorrow Never Dies was pretty good. The worst Bond movie is... Oh, it's a tricky one. Like any of the Roger Moore ones. The only Roger Moore ones that I kind of liked were For Your Eyes Only. Because For Your Eyes Only was very much like a throwback to the older ones. So I liked For Your Eyes Only, and then I also liked Moonraker. Because Moonraker was just like the most over-the-top, like, retardedly awesome shit I'd ever seen in my life. Like, it was just so lame, but so great. Thoughts on Kasich? Kasich is kind of like, I don't know, he's a conservative. I don't really have much else to say about Kasich other than that. If you want to know how I was, I initially was kind of torn between Rubio and Ted Cruz. Then as time went on, I supported Ted Cruz for quite a while, actually. I kind of felt bad about how people started calling him like a cuck and stuff because he was against Trump. Like, Ted Cruz is like the only person in the Senate, or like one of the only persons, I guess, on our side of the aisle who's actively like pursuing Google for their censorship and like the adpocalypse and stuff. Like, he's been actively trying to do something about that, which Trump hasn't. To be fair, Trump's been very busy, but yeah. I just don't like the Logan movie, to be honest. I don't know why exactly. I just didn't really like it very much. Court Gate has appeared. So what do I have to do here? Yellow to no close combat. Oh. Oh, it's invincible, right. Do you expect Trudeau to be reelected? That's an interesting question. I honestly have like no idea what's going to happen in the upcoming Canadian election. It is just kind of a complete blank for me at the moment because it's extremely close.
Silence! It is an honor for demons to commit heinous and devious. Although it appears that the defendant standing before, well, no skin off my beak, dude. We, the Dark Court, give whoever you are our highest praise. Do and grant the defendant a glorious felony on
Favorite Bond actor, mine's Brosnan or Dalton. Having read the books, I'd say Dalton's the most like Bond is in the books. No, Brosnan. Sorry, Brosnan's the most like book Bond, I'd say.
felonies are a demon's war medals, being one of the few, the proud, the ultimate sinners. Good luck. Case closed.
That's hilarious that it's it would be an honor for demons in this universe to get a felony. Did I like Skyfall? Skyfall was pretty good. To be honest, I didn't like have super positive feelings towards any of the Daniel Craig movies. I mean, some of them were like okay, like Casino Royale was pretty good. Skyfall was okay. I'm trying to think what other ones were all right. Skyfall was okay. I'm just trying to think of the other ones. Quantum of Solace is... Oh no, Quantum of Solace might be the worst Bond movie ever made. Quantum of Solace was so bad. Oh my god. Oh, Quantum of Solace. Oh, fuck, I'm gonna be depressed for the rest of the night now that I thought about that piece of shit. Quantum of Solace was like the worst one. Spectre was a film I kind of liked when I watched it, just because I thought the his love interest in it was a real QT. But now that I've kind of thought about it more, Spectre is kind of lame. Like it's really lame. Like that whole thing about Christopher Waltz, like being his like adopted brother, or like what was that shit? I don't even know. It was just really weird. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And it just felt like they were really trying hard. They were like, okay, guys, we fucked up the last two movies, so let's just do another one. Did you hear that Dick Masterson met Monday Matt at IRL at VidCon? I don't really know like who Dick... People keep explaining to me who Dick Masterson is, but I just never like really... get it, I guess. Is he just like, does he just run a podcast show or something like that? I don't really know anything about Dick Masterson. Other than the fact his name is hilarious, but I guess that's not the thing we're going for. Oh, Dick Masterson's the guy Maddox lost to. Ah, Maddox. I remember back when I was in high school, Maddox was the shit. People thought Maddox was like the greatest guy who'd ever lived. Like he was like the edgy, like genius of internet humor. Back in the high school days. Anybody here remember Newgrounds? Or Mega Click? Or Coffee Break Games or whatever it's called? Anyone remember that shout-out stuff? Do you think Elliot Rodger was a state actor and provocateur? I think he was just a massive spaz. I think he was just a massive sped. I don't think there really needs to be a conspiracy. Coffee Break Arcade was the... Yes, Coffee Break Arcade. That's the name of it. And then there was Mini Clip, and they had that awesome game, that like 3D polygon game, Radical Aces. Oh, that shit was the bomb. And then there was like Super Tanks, was I remember a game I really liked. God. There was that game with the cat and the dog, and they would throw stuff at each other, like over a fence or something like that. Does anyone here remember Perfect Kirby? Yeah, Perfect Kirby was the shit. Does anyone remember the Mr. T Versus series? Like Mr. T versus, like Megatron? And like Mr. T versus Godzilla? And like how he would transform using the Mr. T cereal? Oh man, that was awesome. Good times, good times. My misshaped, my misspent youth. I actually remember Perfect Kirby. Anyone here remember Counter Stick? Counter Stick was like my other favorite Flash animation. Then there was Naruto Ultimate Fan Flash, which was awesome. I remember the other thing about Newgrounds is they just made an endless stream of dating sims. Like there was so many, like every fandom had its own dating sim on Newgrounds, and they were all exactly the same. Oh, Newgrounds, Newgrounds, Newgrounds. Is Newgrounds even still around? I don't know, I'm just thinking, like, what other shit that I used to watch back in the day? The only webcomic I ever got into was, Mega Tokyo. Which I stopped following years ago, but that was really the only webcomic I read with semi-regularity. And I just kind of got tired of him never getting anywhere with the stories, so I stopped watching it. But that, I think, is the only webcomic I've ever read to any amount. I was just never a big fan of, what was the kind of stuff? Just trying to think for a minute. Oh my god, it's so funny. Keeper of Damas just mentioned Strong Bad. I was literally about to get to Strong Bad. Okay, so Keeper of Damas says, speaking of Flash, I showed my kids Strong Bad emails the other day. They love Trogdor. Trogdor was funny. I think my favorite one was, I liked the techno songs he did, like, the system is down, the system is down. Or like, the cheat is not dead. That was funny. Homsar was funny. Strong Sad was funny. Oh man. Good shit. Back when, like, people just made this stuff to have fun and you didn't have, like, everything had to be about the pause. Now, like, absolutely everything has to be political. And I kind of miss it back when it wasn't. I never got into Penny Arcade. It just never really interested me. I used to read Destructoid a bit. But I just never really got into any of that stuff. I guess I was just too lazy to read it. Oh, anyone remember GameTrailers? Anybody remember GameTrailers? That was like where the AVGN originally was. Before I think he fully moved to YouTube. When will the next political poll thing be done? I love the last. Okay, it's on the list, guys. It's on the list. I've been very busy with IRL stuff lately. And I'm not just saying that like to say that. I actually have been busy with IRL stuff, which hopefully will work. Yeah, but Screw Attack was hosted on GameTrailers. That was where, yeah, Screw Attack was based on GameTrailers. I have part of the survey written for the part 2 of the alt-right survey. I'm gonna put a lot of different stuff in it. Because I think some things don't really need to be gone over again. Because I think people's feelings on gay marriage were very obvious. I think people's feelings on... I forget if I did abortion. Or not. I think I'm going to reword how I asked that question. Because that's something I wanted to ask about again. I forget what all the questions were I had on the list. I had a number of stuff like that. But it should be good. It should be good. Maybe I'll put global warming on. That would be an interesting one to ask. I forget if I had that, because I'd be really interested to see like what the perspectives are in those areas. Have you ever listened to Tom Wood? Tom Woods, I don't know, I've just never been a Tom Woods fan, to be honest. I'm just not really into that kind of... I don't really agree with him politically or religiously, so I've just never been into him. I just don't like libertarianism in general. I guess is kind of my issue with him, among others. Sure, I could do Kaiser Reich for the next stream. I was playing Kaiser Reich earlier today, actually. I've gone through most of the major countries. I think my favorite country to play as is the Commune of France. Just because there's so much stuff to do. Just Commune of France I really liked, because there's just so much stuff to do as it, because just you get to help out with like all the global revolutions. You get to build like this big syndicalist coalition for the whole like eventual showdown with Germany. Commune of France is just really interesting. Germany I don't find that much fun to play as. Russia I like a lot. Particularly playing as the Soviet Union. And Japan's pretty fun. Do the Second American Civil War. The problem with Canada is Canada's just... I did a Canada game recently where I was able to retake Britain. The problem was... Yeah. I'm going to tell you guys now I use cheats when I play HY4. I'm not going to, like, pretend I don't. In particular, I use allowed diplomacy, because I think it's retarded how much they restrict your diplomatic options in HY4. Like, they don't let you do anything. The other one I often use is the Annex Cheat, because I hate how you can't create puppet governments until the war's completely over, which I think is stupid. So like if you're Commune of France and you knock Spain out of the war you can't set up a collaboration as government in Spain. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Until the war is, like, completely over, and then you have to manually annex them and set them up as a satellite state that way. It doesn't make any sense to me. Also, if you're playing, like, as an irredentist, like, you're playing as, Sicily or something, or if you're playing as, like, the Italian Socialist Republic or something like that, and you've managed to retake most of the country, but you can't actually retake it because of, yeah. Also, I admit I use a lot of cheats. Political power is another one. It's another thing I just find annoying, to be honest. Russia is good for any of them. Tsarist Russia is good, is a lot of fun, but also Soviet Russia is probably my favorite one. Just because you're fighting the entire world. What I had done in probably the Kaiser Reich game I played the most was as the Soviet Union, and I didn't join the Third Internationale. So what wound up happening is Middle Africa broke apart. So I invaded Africa, like, through the Middle East, and I overran all of Africa and set up, I called them sister republics. And then I went through and in the sister republics I built them all up. So I basically industrialized Africa, and then I led the massive Third World Coalition into a war with Germany. So that was a lot of fun. The Entente just kind of sucks in Kaiser Reich. Unless Federalist America joins, the Entente is just very, very weak. They don't have any superpower in it. If like the rest of them join, like Brazil joins and like South Africa joins and stuff, it gets a little better. But in general, I just don't think it works very well. The Entente is just kind of underpowered. The Internationale is a lot of fun. I'd say I like playing them probably more than just about anyone else. Although I like doing the Pan-Asian Co-Prosperity Sphere as Japan. That's a lot of fun as well. Japan's always one of my favorite countries to play, just because it's so different. Just because Japan kind of does its own thing. It's like just off in the middle of nowhere. Japan's just kind of has a completely different set of political objectives and strategic objectives, and there's just so many different ways you can go about stuff as Japan. The only issue I have with Kaiser Reich is a couple of the factions are just nowhere near finished. Like, the Ottoman Empire is nowhere near finished. They haven't really done very much for it. It's one of my favorite countries to play as. They also haven't done much for Qing China. Qing China just at the moment is just kind of like, there's not very much to do as Puyi. So it would be nice if they did that one, as opposed to spending all their time just with the LARP factions, like, what's it called again? Like, the Mad Baron. I think they need to get the Mad Monarchist to do, like, some voice acting, for Baron, however the fuck you pronounce his name, Ernger von Sternberg, or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know what the Bleach ending was like. I actually thought the Naruto ending wasn't bad. I refuse to watch Boruto because Boruto looks like an abomination. Kaiser Reich is like a big long love letter to LARPy political movements. Like, you can have every like historical LARPy movement come to power. Like the Iron Guard, the Integralists, like just everybody. If you've ever had a political movement with unrealistic D&D style objectives, they probably are in power in Kaiser Reich. Let's see here. I was actually shocked that Naruto and Hinata wound up together, because it's so counter to how most anime relationships go. I was convinced he was going to wind up with Sakura. Like, up until basically the very end, I was 100% convinced. And I think that was very brave on Kishimoto's part. To actually do that. Austria is interesting because you have the it's not as counterintuitive as Ichigo and Orihime. I always hated Orihime. The Ultimate Ninja Storms is the best way to experience Naruto. Okay, unironically, Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 was one of my favorite video games ever made. Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 had so many feels in it, and it had amazing music. I loved it. I cried multiple times playing it. Like the scene where Kyuubi and Naruto finally become friends. I just thought that was a very, very touching moment. The scene where Naruto meets his mother, and they find out that they have the same verbal tick. But, no, I always liked Naruto a lot. My issue with Naruto is it's just too long, and I just kind of got bored watching it. I've, like, gone through and read everything that, like, happened. But Naruto had, like, a lot of good characters, and a lot of heart to it. Naruto was also kind of right-winged in a lot of ways. Like, the Will of Fire is basically right-wing nationalism, and, like, the passing of the torch from generation to generation is a big, thing. I'm trying to think, another thing that I cried like a baby watching was Jiraiya's death. I maintain Jiraiya has like the best death scene in anime history. I loved that scene. That was amazing. That was like the perfect send-off to the character. And I really like how it kind of brought all the plot lines full circle between them. I tried watching Soul Eater and I just didn't really like it very much, so I never really got particularly into it. The worst anime I think I've ever seen is The Familiar of Zero, and I will maintain it's the worst anime I've ever seen. I remember my university anime club did that. So we're on number 7 now. Adele, go do horrible things. Oh, that did absolutely nothing. Okay. I think I'm just gonna skip this level. Which Civ was my favorite? I'm the one person who liked Civ 6. I actually thought Civ 6 was pretty good. I didn't really get why people hated it so much. The biggest thing I've seen as to why people didn't like Civ 6 was just they inserted a bunch of random female inappropriately inserted a bunch of random female rulers. So I think that's my view is it. Have your thoughts on Avengers Endgame changed? Yeah, Avengers Endgame sucked. I mean, it wasn't bad compared to most of the other Marvel movies, but it was pretty shitty. I just was surprised that it wasn't as bad as like the previous ones were. I guess is kind of like what I was shocked by. Cuz I don't know, I hated the previous 3 Avengers movies. Like I thought they were garbage. I thought Infinity War was total trash. I really hated Infinity War. I thought Infinity War sucked. I thought Avengers 1 was shit. Avengers 2 was terrible. What was Avengers? I don't even remember what Avengers 3 was. Was Avengers 3 Infinity War? I don't remember actually what the Avengers 3 was. Wow, that's how forgettable it was. That's like all the Marvel movies. Most of them are just like garbage. I didn't see why Captain Marvel was like worse than any of the other ones. It just to me kind of seemed like, what the fuck is this? Pirates appeared? Okay. Holy shit, level 72. Okay, I gotta get out of here. I've gotta get to the next level. Here we go. Have you ever seen Full Metal Alchemist / Brotherhood? Yeah, I like Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist is good. I'm gonna say now, I really liked Roy Mustang, and I really liked Riza. Riza's like one of my favorite female characters. I'm debating if I get a cat, naming my cat Riza. If I have a female cat. I have a couple names in mind what I want to name my cat. I have, if it's a boy, I think I'm going to name it Theo. If it's female, I'm going to either name it Elspeth or Marta or Riza. I liked Scar a lot. I liked most of the characters. I just liked FMA a lot. I just found Al kind of annoying. I think that's really the only character I didn't really like was probably Al. But I read most of the manga, and I watched most of Brotherhood. And overall, I thought it was pretty good. How do I leave? Is that how I leave? Okay, I'm just gonna use go home. I don't want to I don't know how I'm gonna get through this, so. Wait. Fuck, I can't use the go home. No. Okay. I like both FMAs. I think they're both pretty good. My issue with the original FMA was like the shitty thing where they go to IRL World War II, which I just thought was like the lamest shit possible. But no, overall, I didn't think the original was that bad. It's kind of like how I didn't think the original. I actually prefer the original Hellsing to the Hellsing Ultimate or whatever the hell it's called. I thought the original was a lot better. The characters I just found were a lot more likable in the original, whereas in like Hellsing Ultimate, everyone's just a massive douchebag, and no one's like at all sympathetic, other than Paladin Anderson. Paladin Anderson's always been my favorite character. But I liked Ceres a lot more in the original Hellsing than in the reboot. Well, I am fucked in this level. Okay, Nero, you've got to make it to the exit. You just have to make it to the exit. Otherwise, we're completely screwed. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not sure. Do I have to do anything specific to get out here, or is that just the exit? I guess that's just the exit. Oh, come on. Favorite movie from the Disney Renaissance era? That's an easy one. I'd say Hunchback of Notre Dame is, I think, the best Disney movie. Beauty and the Beast is close, but I really like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Back when I used to work, because I used to work at a movie theater, and we had our favorite movies on our name tags, and I had Hunchback of Notre Dame on mine. It's just a movie that's good on so many levels. Also, Frollo did nothing wrong. Frollo did absolutely nothing wrong. Okay, did I get out? Advancing to Innocent Town. I can't save here? this is weird. I got some HL. There's a Power Ranger here. Okay, I'm just gonna head back. Escape from the item world. Anyways, guys, I think that's enough for one evening. I need to get up for work tomorrow, so I'm going to head to bed. Good night, everybody. God bless. This is Argent. We must descend.